Welcome to the deep dive. We dig into sources to find those really surprising professional insights and maybe some enduring wisdom, too. Today, we're looking at William Zinsser, the author of On Writing Well. Still such a go-to guy for clear writing.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Zinsser's ideas, they weren't cooked up in some quiet study. They were really hammered out through constant change, constant adaptation. So our mission today really is to pull out those key moments, those career shifts, and some, frankly, pretty weird places he wrote that show how his main idea developed. Clarity comes from character.
Okay, and we have to start with maybe the strangest rental agreement ever. We're
Yeah.
talking 1987. Zinsser is 65 years old. He finds this fifth-floor office space, 128 East 56th Street. The landlord is Bernard Geiss, the publisher, famous for massive hits like Valley of the Dolls.
Right, Geiss. And the office, it sounds kind of cool, like a Parisian garret, but Geiss, who was 78 himself, had put in a fire pole, like a real shiny fire pole from the fifth floor down to the fourth.
Get this.
And the condition for Zinsser renting the place, he had to prove he was suitable by sliding down the pole.
Wow. I mean, just picture that Zinsser, this icon of American writing, the guy preaching simplicity, structure. And
Yeah.
he's got to basically do this stunt just to get an office.
It tells you something, doesn't it? It kind
Seriously.
of sets up this core tension in his life. You've got this incredible internal discipline, but then this willingness to just jump into whatever weirdness life throws at him.
Yeah, it suggests that if you want to write clearly, maybe you first have to be okay with, well, discomfort, total discomfort sometimes.
And that started way earlier for him. World War II, actually. Service in North Africa, Italy. He figured out pretty fast that as a writer, your commitment has to override your surroundings.
Yeah, the sources mention him writing company histories near Blida in Algeria, with hot sand blowing everywhere from the Sirocco wind, and then later near Brindisi, Italy, same thing, but with cold particles, like snow. So, lesson one, write anywhere. Location isn't the main thing.
Right. Output is key. And that kind of grit, that tolerance for discomfort, it definitely helped when he landed at the New York Herald Tribune, 230 West 41st Street. Dream job, but the place itself.
Oh, totally the opposite of a modern office. We're talking desks scarred with cigarette burns, constant smoke in the air, old fans just pushing hot air around. Zinsser actually said you had to be conditioned to discomfort.
Exactly. But amid all that grime, there was this fierce dedication to quality writing.
True. The Trib was famous for its standards, especially sports writing. He mentions Red Smith, Joe H. Palmer as influences. Shows that excellence can happen anywhere, right? Even in chaos.
And he worked his way up, covered the mess after the GI Bill, then drama editor, and then the big one, movie critic.
Which is where things got tricky. By 1958, the paper wasn't doing well financially. Advertisers had a lot of power, like 20th Century Fox.
And Fox released two big movies that year that were, let's be honest, pretty bad. South Pacific, the film version, and a remake of A Farewell to Arms.
So Fox basically tells Zinsser, you give these bad reviews, we pull our ads, big threat.
But he reviewed them, honestly, negatively. He just wouldn't compromise on that. An ethical line for him.
He knew it would cost him the critic job, moved to editorial writing for a bit, but he saw the writing on the wall, The paper was decaying. He quit in 1959.
That's a huge step. Trading that newsroom buzz for, well, freelancing and his new office. Not some fancy studio. It was a maid's room in his apartment.
Yeah, that's a massive shift, not just physically, but mentally. From constant noise, collaboration, phones ringing, typewriters clacking.
To just silence, solitude. In this tiny room, suddenly he's his own boss, his own editor, and the main sound. Apparently it was this machine gun-like rattle of him crossing out sentences on his typewriter pages, just Xing things out ruthlessly.
He became a generalist writer, right, for those big magazines, but he saw that world changing too.
Oh, definitely. Television was starting to boom, and it sucked up all the consumer advertising money. That's what killed off the big general interest magazines like the Saturday Evening Post. He knew he was kind of the end of an era.
He actually said if he'd been born maybe 10 years later, he probably couldn't have made it as a generalist. The market was already splitting into niche stuff. Skiing magazine, gardening,
So what does he do? He adapts again, pivots to serious humor, satire, mostly for Life magazine. He starts using parody to kind of process all the craziness of the 60s, the cultural stuff, the military stuff.
Ah, this is where Harley G. Waller comes in, the fictional chairman of the National Refractory and Brake Company.
That's him. Waller was Zinsser's way of poking fun at what he called upward failure, people failing their way up the ladder in corporations and government.
The best example has got to be the commuter train story.
Oh, classic. The train's memory module fails. So instead of taking commuters from Connecticut to New York City, it goes completely off course to Providence, Rhode Island.
And instead of saying, oops, sorry, Waller spins it, he says it's a triumph of learning, that it just makes them more determined to unlock the secrets of microelectronics.
It's perfect satire of that kind of institutional arrogance, right? Where failure is never admitted, it's just repackaged. But he wasn't only doing satire, he was also out there observing the counterculture.
Right. In 1967, he goes to San Francisco for Look magazine, covering the Haight-Ashbury scene, the love hippies.
Yeah, he met Stuart Brand, who was just launching the Whole Earth catalog, even hung around the Grateful Dead, though apparently the rehearsals were painfully loud for him. He was really trying to understand this massive cultural shift happening in America.
Okay, so he's mastered journalism, satire, cultural observation. Then comes another big turn, 1968, an unexpected phone call.
Yep, an invitation to teach nonfiction writing at the Indiana University Writers Conference. And something just clicked for him. He said it activated an old dream he'd had about teaching.
And this was kind of important because nonfiction wasn't always taken seriously in academia back then, was it?
Not at all. It was sort of the underdog compared to fiction and poetry. But Zinsser sensed there was this real hunger for it.
And he proved it. He gets hired at Yale just on an experimental basis to teach nonfiction. The English department is apparently stunned when 170 students sign up. 170.
Think about that timing. It's just after the 60s, right? A lot of students had come through this period where maybe education was more about letting it all hang out.
Yeah.
But they get to Yale and they realize, wait, I don't actually know how to structure an argument, how to write clearly. They didn't need more permission. They needed tools. They needed discipline.
And Zinsser provided that. He met that need for reality, for clarity.
Which led to maybe his most surprising role. 1973, he's appointed Master of Calhoun College at Yale.
Even though he wasn't a Yale guy, he was a Princeton grad. Kingman Brewster Jr., the Yale president, picked him anyway.
And wouldn't you know it, he runs into another noise problem, just like he'd had years before in West Hampton Beach. This time, it's the Harkness Tower Carillon. 44 bells, apparently very loud, very cloudy tones, right outside his window.
So he starts this quixotic campaign, as he called it, to get them to play less often. Some things never change.
But his style as master sounds pretty down to earth. Less formal meetings, more just getting things done, maybe chatting by the pinball machine in the common room.
Yeah.
He was also seeing the intense pressure Yale students were under, reading their dean's excuse notes.
Yeah, but there's that great story that shows his character, his commitment to inclusion with Rabbi Wolf.
Oh, yeah. The rabbi is leading a Simchat Torah celebration, very joyous, and they dance right through the fellows' lounge during some kind of official meeting.
Interrupting everything, and there's this horrified old guard alumnus type, blazer and all, who apparently looked like he was at a Yale Bowl tailgate. He was furious.
Complained right to the president. But Zinsser never heard a peep about it afterward, which kind of proved Brewster's point and Zinsser's belief. Sometimes you have to break a few traditions to be fair and inclusive.
Okay, so those Yale years, they really solidified things for him. And then the book idea on writing well, that came from his wife Caroline in 1974.
That's right. And his goal wasn't to knock Strunk and White off its pedestal. The elements of style was about grammar, usage. Zinsser wanted to complement it.
How so?
By focusing on the forms of nonfiction, the practical stuff. How do you conduct an interview? How do you write about travel or science? Things Strunk and White didn't really cover.
Okay, let's dig into the core principles then. The Zinsser philosophy. What's at the heart of it?
Simplicity, clarity, brevity. Those are the big three. He constantly emphasized using strong, active verbs, good old Anglo-Saxon verbs, and cutting out those dense Latin-based nouns that often muddy things up.
And clutter. He hated clutter.
Called it the overwhelming sin of writing. If a word isn't doing real work, get rid of it. Just ruthless elimination of anything unnecessary.
It's interesting how the book's structure kind of forced that principle on him, too.
You mean the copyright thing? Yeah. The fair use provision meant he could only use about 300 words per excerpt from other writers.
Right. Which sounds like a limitation, but
it was brilliant, really. It forced him to pick examples that made a point incredibly concisely while still showing the original author's style. Constraint breeding discipline? Yeah. Just like his core message.
He had another constraint, too, didn't he? An internal one. About using his own writing.
Yeah. He's worried about that. Coming from that sort of WASP background where you don't make a show, he thought including his own stuff might seem, I don't know, immodest.
But he did it anyway.
He realized he had to. He couldn't just tell people to be clear. He had to show the struggle. So he put in pages from his own drafts, showing where he'd crossed things out, tightened sentences, made improvements, became a laboratory specimen, he called it.
And those pages showing the messy work behind the clean prose, they turned out to be incredibly popular, right?
Hugely popular. People loved seeing that even Zinsser had to wrestle with his own sentences. It made the whole process feel more achievable.
And crucially, the book didn't just stay the same over the years. He kept updating it.
Constantly. He adopted non-sexist language early on, and he deliberately brought in more diverse writers in later editions. Maxine Hung Kingston, James Baldwin, Diane Ackerman.
Why was that important to him?
To show that clear, powerful writing isn't tied to any one background or culture, it comes from everywhere. It was about reflecting the reality of America and validating writers from all origins.
That adaptability, it even stretched to technology, which wasn't initially his comfort zone, the word processor.
Right, he was initially kind of scared of it, like a lot of writers moving from typewriters. But instead of just resisting it, he wrote a book about his experience in 1983, writing with a word processor.
Which sounds like a tech manual, but it wasn't really, was it?
Not just that, it was almost like therapy. He framed it like he was an explorer charting unknown territory. It helped thousands of other writers make that leap because he shared his own learning process, his own anxieties about it.
So when you look back at his whole journey,
Yeah,
the Trib Grit, the quiet maid's room, Yale, that weird office with the fire pole, it all points to something bigger, doesn't it?
definitely. The final lesson isn't about finding the perfect writing spot. It's about connecting your writing style to who you are, to your character, building resilience, learning constantly.
And that underlying takeaway from On Writing Well, the thing beneath all the rules about verbs and clutter.
It's the thinking. That's the hard part, not the typing, the thinking. Cleaning out the mental sludge, as he put it, so you can get to something simple, something authentic.
That clarity of thought is what gives the writing its power.
Exactly. Which brings us to maybe one last Zinsser idea, something really provocative that applies way beyond just writing. It's about adverbs.
Adverbs like surprisingly or predictably.
Yeah. He avoided them. His belief was you have to trust your reader. If you present the information clearly, the reader should be able to figure out for themselves if it's surprising or predictable or important. You don't need to signpost their reaction.
Don't tell them how to feel about the facts. Just give them the facts.
Trust your material. That's the principle. So here's the challenge for you listening. Try applying that Zinsser lesson this week in your emails, your reports, maybe even just how you talk. See what happens if you stop using those unnecessary adverbs to signal importance or enthusiasm. Just state the facts clearly, cleanly. Let them speak for themselves. You might find your message lands with a whole new kind of force.